I submit to you, Mr. President, that we brought many ideas, and for the record, stated that every single referral, every single one, has been voted down and has not made it out of committee. Every single committee for the last 3 years that I've been here in this office. Bipartisan seems to come up now that it's budget time. Now that it's time to, the cameras are here. Now that it's time to go into an election year next year. Bipartisan seems to be the nice word to say, the good thing to say. All of a sudden we were told, or not all of a sudden, but in the past we were told that our blueprint for progress, one of the things that was laughed at and said because it was too small of amounts of money that we were talking about, it couldn't close such a big budget gap. Now all of a sudden today, bipartisan comes in and we approve $100,000, which is a small amount, just the same as some of the small amounts in our blueprint for progress. It's interesting how this stuff comes to the table now, when it's time to pass a budget, which I stand to say that I will not approve or vote for this budget as it stands. So many reasons why. We look at all of the things that we brought up, the Democratic caucus, this caucus has brought up over the last 10 days on the things that, monies that we have recouped from various places, one-shots that we put into this budget. But one of the things that just really just blows my natural mind is the fact that we have in this budget projected safety net program. And I give Ms. Reed, I give her credit. I have done that in committees. I have said she's doing a wonderful job. I really believe that. Nonetheless, I don't believe it's her call, but we're projecting that safety net is going to take a decrease. 1.9 million jobs the president-elect is dealing with the loss of in this country. My phone is ringing off the hook. I'm just one district of people that are constantly asking for jobs, jobs, jobs. My constituents, my colleagues here, as well as my constituents, and talking with my colleagues, they're having the same issue. I've seen this more now than the 3 years that I've been in office. People are hurting. We're in a crisis now, and you mean to tell me the safety net program is estimated to be lower? That's ridiculous. This makes no common sense whatsoever. That people are going to need less help next year than they do right now, when we're in the worst predicament that we've ever been, that I know of in my lifetime. So I rise to say that you can say bipartisanship as much as you want, but we're not fooled. This is a terrible budget, and I will not support it. Thank you.
This is a budget that protects, Mr. President, the taxpayers in this community. This is a budget that is not a terrible budget. This is a budget that will pass tonight. I sincerely hope that we hear a suggestion from the Democrats that addresses the structural problems that this community faces, this county faces, and indeed upstate counties face all over the state. They will be very shortly in the position to effect change in this county like they never have been in the position to effect change before. In that there's a Democratic governor, a Democratic assembly, and there will be a Democratic Senate. My hope in the future is to work together with them, not in a divisive way, and I disagree with all of the assertions that we just heard from the legislator in back. My hope is that we can work together with this minority caucus, with their newfound influence, and really affect structural change in this community. To date, I've heard no suggestions. I'm not suggesting that $100,000 isn't significant. My complaint with the blueprint for progress were that the suggestions were not legal. They've been well and thoroughly debated over and over again. It's time to move forward. Bring me significant suggestions to address the structural imbalance in this county. Don't talk to me about cell phones. Don't talk to me about cars going home with county employees unless you're prepared to debate the numbers specifically. We got those numbers. We'll debate them. My contention is that that's a waste of time. I've looked at the numbers. Let's talk about the structural issues in this county. Let's not waste time bickering. Let's not stay here till midnight wasting electricity. Let's talk about substance.
Before we go forward, I'd like to ask all legislators, please don't rise to speak until I declare your name. Legislator Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. President. Legislator Quattro, I don't know if you referenced going home early or midnight 4, 5, or 6 times in your comments this evening, but I clearly understand that you resent being here this evening. I myself, as you probably know, do not resent being here this evening, and I think the This is important work to do. It's our job to review this budget as thoroughly as we can. It's over $1 billion of taxpayer money. I like to be able to answer questions about it when my constituents ask them. I also like to learn more details about the budget, such as the amendment that we discussed earlier this evening and some other information that we learned through the committee process. Legislator Quattro, I'd also just like to make sure that you're also aware that you are free to offer amendments and other ideas to reduce the structural deficit yourself too. I have yet to see any of those ideas come forward from the majority caucus. This evening I rise specifically to discuss, actually before I do that, I wish to request a bit of additional information from the administration. I did receive this evening answer to my question, the list of about 470 some pilots that we have. My additional request would be that the dollar amounts associated with these pilots be provided to the President.
To the President, we can provide that information, and it will take us a couple days to get that together for you.
Thank you very much. Tonight I rise to offer an amendment regarding an issue that came up that passed a few committees actually, and that is the issue of the lease at 80 West Main Street, otherwise known as the Wedding Building. And if I have a second, there's no one else to speak to it.
Second, Mr. President.
Thank you. During questioning in Human Services and also I believe during Ways and Means, we learned that the county expends about $400,000 in annual rent for that facility. Last week, when asked how many county employees are located there, the answer was 12. Today, actually, as referenced earlier by the majority, our staff and I believe a Republican legislator did take a tour of that facility, and as if 12 wasn't shocking enough, there are actually only 2 county employees that work in that building. I believe one's a secretary and the other is a supervisor. So essentially, if I'm doing my math correctly, we're paying $200,000 per employee for rent at 80 West Main Street. To me, that is totally outrageous and unacceptable. The county has maintained that there are several agencies in that building that we contract with, and that if we didn't pay the rent, that they could increase what they charge us. Certainly, this is a possible scenario, but I find it very difficult to believe that the county only contracts with few or so agencies in that building, and know that we have probably tens, hundreds, or possibly even thousands of contracts with other agencies. And I find it very difficult to believe that we would possibly pay rent for all of those other agencies that we contract with. So therefore, to save the taxpayers of this community going forward $400,000 in annual rent, and because this lease contains a subject to appropriations clause, so that if the county at this point in time does not allocate that money, the lease could be canceled. So in an effort here to recognize that some logistics may need to be worked out, and we may need a little time to do that, I'm going to propose that we give the county 6 months until June 30th of 2009 to relocate those 2 employees, and at that point cancel this lease. So I propose the amendment that reads, be it moved that intro 348 of 2008 be amended as follows. Section 1, reduce appropriation for rental of space, item 504340, for the property leased by the County of Monroe at 80 West Main Street, commonly known as the Wegman Building, by $200,000. Section 2, appropriate $200,000 into the contingency fund. Section 3, the legislature hereby exercises the subject to appropriations clause provision in the lease for 80 West Main Street and prohibits any expenditure of county funds for the rent of that building after June 30th, 2009.
Further discussion, Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was the legislator that took the tour with the Democratic staff. There were no Democratic legislators there. It is true, there are only 2 county employees in that building. However, there are dozens of other workers in that building, and there are hundreds of clients in that building. That building has 3 levels of services for individuals that are coming out of state prisons and even within our local establishments. And each one of those levels treat those people in terms of being able to rehabilitate them and deal with their personal problems and get them as employee and